What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And before we get too deep into this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Before we get too deep into this video, be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. On the road to 2,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without you guys. If you guys haven't noticed by now, we're pushing out content almost daily, so I'm giving the people what they want. Just give me a favor in return and hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So to give you a timestamp as I do for all of my episodes, today is Sunday, July the 28th, 2024. And it was actually day 4 of Commanders training camp. And it's a little different. You see, it's a little different from our recent training camp recap videos. We're not reading tweets. We're not looking on Twitter to try to find some scoops. Because guess what? Your boy was live. Boots on the ground in Ashburn today, bright and early, to get the sights and sounds of Commanders Training Camp 2024. Today was actually the first open practice of the 2024 season where fans were allowed to come watch their Washington Commanders. And that's my first takeaway from training camp, is that the vibes are back. The energy is back. If you guys went to training camp last year, it was pretty packed. It was pretty packed. I'm not even going to sell it short. It couldn't hold a candle to today. Practice started at 9 o'clock. Lines were packed at 7 a.m. Thankfully, I had a VIP pass and was able to get some on-site parking because if I didn't, I would have been miserable. But the vibes are back, and I say that because it was giving me RG3 2012 Richmond vibes with just the amount of people there. Now, I'm not saying that they necessarily had that same excitement, and some of that might have been due to the practice being at the crack of dawn, but there were a plethora of people there. I think the numbers came in that there were over 3,000 people there, and I think that they honestly might be selling it short because it got to a point in practice where I couldn't move. Honestly, I was packed in there like sardines, and I really couldn't get a lot of the exclusive footage that I've been getting in years past, simply because I couldn't get an advantageous viewpoint, even with me, being in VIP and things of that nature, because it was simply that packed. So, and that's not a complaint by any means. I'm glad to see that the fan base is excited, and I think that that's all due to the fact that we have a promising quarterback to lead the helm, and somebody that's projecting to be a franchise type quarterback. Don't want to put too much pressure on, but it seems like the fans are starting to buy in. Now, I know that we're not going to bring everybody back, whether it be the name, whether it be they're aged out of football, they're just simply not interested anymore. But to see the amount of people that were there today, and to see the amount of kids there today was something that stuck out to me, is because those are the people that's going to keep this fan base pushed when we're long dead and gone. Those are the people that's going to keep this brand pushing and this brand thriving. So to see the next generation start to become Washington football team, Washington Commander fans is something that I haven't really seen in the last decade. I think my generation was the last decade of like childhood Washington Redskin fans. And I'm about to be 29 years old. So it's something that we haven't really seen in the last, decade, but it seems like the tides are turning. So that was my first observation from camp before I really get into the on-field stuff. I'm just, like I said, I'm going to give you some sights and sounds from Richmond today, how the mood was, how the vibe was, and to give you some takeaways that I noticed from the on-the-field product today. So once I got there, Dan Quinn actually addressed the fans, appreciating them to come out. And actually encouraging them and telling them to come out throughout the season. So you can tell that he's actually, and he's been with Dallas, so it kind of makes sense. But he knows that, like, opposing fans come to take over FedEx Field or whatever they're calling it this year in 2024. And he kind of alluded to that in his pre-practice speech. So that was kind of interesting to hear him encourage people to come out to support the team. It was just great vibes before the practice. You can really tell that these guys are invested in, really rejuvenated, and really can't wait to get back to football. It's just a complete 180 over there in Commanders Park. We saw film and footage of Jaden Daniels and Sam Hartman coming out to practice about 45 minutes before the official start of practice. So that was something I love to see from my franchise quarterback. And without further ado, let's get into some of the on-field takeaways that I saw from Ashburn today. Because you come to Bleeding B&G for the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis. Shout out to all the beat reporters. I saw them today. They showed a lot of love because they know who Bleeding B&G are. We not about to fool ourselves. They know exactly who Bleeding B&G is. But it's different when you can catch it from a first-person point of view, when you can actually lay eyes on the product. Because honestly, not to toot my own horn, I don't think that any of the beat reporters know football like I do. So for me to be able to digest it from a first-person point of view and be able to regurgitate this information to you guys, there's no place I'd rather be. There's no place that I'd rather be than on here with the Bleeding B&G and you guys. So let's get on to this on-field product. So the first thing that I really want to say is it's time to start giving Jaden Daniels QB1 reps. It's time to start giving him all the QB1 reps. And I'll be the first to admit that I thought that Chris Russell was kind of like trying to make something that wasn't there when he was the first person to come out and say like Marcus Mariota is getting a lot more of the quarterback run reps than I expected going into camp. And today that came into fruition. I saw the exact same thing. He opened up the team period as the number one quarterback in both team sessions. Now, Jaden Daniels did take the first reps in 7-on-7, but if I'm being realistic and looking at my keen football eye, and I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it because, like I said, I just thought that the rooster was. I'm just reporting what I saw at camp today. Now, I do think that Jaden Daniels is going to be the day one starter. But if I'm being completely honest with myself, I would rather Jaden Daniels get those QB1 reps in the 11-on-11 situations where it's reflecting a more game-like situation and a more game-like scenario than 7-on-7. But I'll be remiss to not mention that he was the quarterback one when the team did break off in the into the 7-on-7 session. And he also was the first quarterback to lead the throws and things of that nature. So he's doing everything that a quarterback one should be doing other than taking quarterback one reps during team drills. So that's something that I'm interested to see how long it takes for him to supersede Marcus Mariota on the depth chart. I don't think that this is a real thing. Like I said in my last episode, I think that they're really just focusing on the standard protocol it takes for a quarterback to move up the hierarchy of the depth chart. No matter if you're a Heisman Trophy winner, I think Dan Quinn is really trying to press down on the issue of earning everything, competition, and I think that that's just Jaden just falling in the line of that. But the reason that I said that is because Marcus Mariota is not that guy. Like, I wouldn't mind Jaden Daniels really sitting behind a guy if this guy was a veteran, quarterback that is keeping the offense afloat, having them move in fluidity and having them, move in motion and move in rhythm and things of that nature. Marcus Mariota is the complete opposite of that. He holds the ball, he pats the ball. Any big play is from a Marcus Mariota scramble, which we know isn't fucking realistic in a training camp setting, let alone in 2024, in year 11 of Marcus Mariota. Like, we know he's not running from anybody, no matter how good he wants to make it look in training camp. I know he threw a one guaranteed interception in the final team session, and he had about 3 or 4 near interceptions. It was almost like watching Taylor Heineke again. It's almost like he had a shamrock, a 4-leaf clover in his back pocket, the way that the DBs weren't coming up with interceptions because he was throwing them right to him. And it was frustrating to see because, as I mentioned, you couldn't really see the first team offense get in a rhythm with the way that he was holding on to the ball, with the way that he was locking in on one receiver. And that was the theme of today's practice. The theme of today's practice, to be 100% honest with you guys, is that it was really rough for the offense. It was really rough for the offense. Now, I know it's early in training camp, and I know that the defense is usually before the offense because you got to get timing and things like that down. But I'm just giving you what we saw on the field today. And the defense was flying around, and the defense definitely dominated the day today. The offense had some few highlight moments, not many highlight moments in 11-on-11, if I'm being completely honest. But Jaden did make a couple nice throws in 7-on-7 that I want to touch on. Another thing that I noticed is that Austin Eckler definitely still has the juice. He looks just as twitchy. He looks just as jittery as ever. And he looks like the same Austin Eckler that we saw before the 2023 season where he hurt both of his ankles. He looks fully healthy. And I saw Brian Robinson actually put up a picture before practice today where Austin Eckler was like fully dressed before practice, like an hour before practice. And I love to see it because it fits everything that Austin Eckler has been, or everything that we've known him to be throughout his career. A hard worker, a grinder, somebody that has got it out the mud as an undrafted guy turned to a Pro Bowler. And he was just dialed the fuck in. It was really nice to see because you can tell he takes that same approach and that same seriousness in practice. As I mentioned before, it was a rough day for the offense, and you could tell with like some of the reactions that Austin Eckler had, he was getting frustrated that they weren't moving with fluidity, weren't moving with rhythm and things of that nature. And to be honest, amongst the ones, I will say that Brian Robinson probably had the lion's share of the reps, or the majority of the reps, but it was honestly about a 60-40 split. And I today just solidified and validated my belief that we're really going to be a run-heavy team this year. Whether it be with Austin Eckler, whether that be with Brian Robinson, whether that be with Jaden Daniels utilizing his legs and utilizing his 4.4, 4.3 speed, because I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the video of him getting the fuck on the read option today. Now, I know it's 11 on 11 and no pads, but I think that he honestly might have taking that to the house with some of the speed that we've known him to possess coming out of LSU. But that was something that I was pleased to notice today, is that Austin Eckler still has the juice, because I think he's going to completely unlock this offense. And I think that he's perfect in this Cliff Kingsbury system. Is something that I'm going to touch on a little bit later as well. Another situation that I noticed is that this Andrew Wiley situation is a little precarious to me. It's a little interesting with how they're handling it. Because he participated in individual drills, and then he didn't do a single thing in the 11 on 11 sessions, in either the first one or the last one before practice ended. And I know that they said that he sat out the team drills in Friday's practice. So I was wondering why he participated in individuals today, and quite frankly, he did not move well in individuals. So I know the reports were coming out that he self-proclaimed that he was having tightness and things of that nature, and it did look like that. But I'm curious as to why he will go out there and participate in indies and look as bad as he did today, if he knew he was tight, and if he knew he really wasn't 100%. Because to be honest, it was bad. It was bad. It's almost as if he was like, the individuals went so bad that he was like, oh yeah, I'm just not going to do this team shit. Like, I'm just going to call it quits for today. I'm going to call it a wrap for today. And if he's not 100% healthy, as I mentioned before, why is he out there? Does he feel a little fire up under his ass? With, Cornelius Lucas potentially slotting in at the right tackle position and us pegging in, us pegging Brandon Coleman as the day one left tackle. Is he feeling a little fire up his ass? So is that why he feel like he needs to be out there? He needs to be practicing? Because that's the only excuse that I really have for him to be out there today. The way that he was moving, I'm not sure what he said was tight, but he was moving very ginger. So I don't think that it was an excuse, but he was getting his ass whooped in individuals today. It looked a lot like 2023, if we're being 100% honest. Another thing that I noticed today is that Tariq Castro-Fields got some work in with the ones today. Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes started out as the first set of cornerbacks in the 11 on 11 and 7 on 7 session. But Tariq Castro-Fields was rotating a lot with Benjamin St-Juste. I would say that Emmanuel Forbes got the lion's share of the cornerback reps with the ones today, with St-Juste and Tariq Castro-Fields rotating. Not sure how I necessarily feel about that, because I wasn't necessarily the highest on Tariq Castro-Fields coming out of college, let alone coming out of high school. He's a local product coming out of Riverdale Baptist. But I will say that, he is the type of DB that has thrived in Dan Quinn's system at being over 6'1", with over 32-inch arms. And he looked comfortable in this scheme today. He looks more comfortable than he did at any point in the Ron Rivera era, when we were going out there last year for training camp. And I know that Lake Lewis even mentioned on my man Rio Robinson's podcast that Tariq Castro-Fields had been the second best cornerback out there over the course of, the first couple of days. And I was like, this Lake's Penn State bias. Lake went to Penn State like Tariq Castro-Fields did. But He was getting run with the ones today. So Dan Quinn and it seems like Dan Quinn and Joe Witt are noticing something with Tariq Castro Fields. So at this point, I think that he might be a roster lock to make the team. And I'm honestly excited to see what they can, mold him into being. Because like I said, I honestly wasn't the highest on him coming out of college. But hey, if we could get a local product to shine for my local professional football team, all the better. To stay along the lines of the DBs and working with the ones and things of that nature. Jeremy Chin and Quan Martin were your starting safeties today. And let me tell you right now, Quan Martin had the best practice of anybody on that 90-man roster today. Quan Martin was the best man in Ashburn today. No matter who you want, Jonathan Allen, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, they all paled in comparison to Quan Martin today. Quan Martin was all over the goddamn field today. I didn't know what the fuck he got in the. Quan Martin definitely had his Wheaties this morning. Quan Martin definitely had his Wheaties this morning. He was flying all over the field, batting passes down, stepping up in the coverage. He looks the most comfortable in this Dan Quinn, Joe Witt system. As I mentioned on Twitter, if you're not following us, this is why you need to follow us so you can get these live tweets because we boots on the ground in Ashburn now. We starting to get that season ticket holder access, and you don't want to miss it, so you might as well hit that subscribe button and follow us over there, Bleeding BNG. But as I mentioned on Twitter, we all know that the Dan Quinn, Joe Witt defense, their scheme, they one player ends up being a turnover magnet. One player ends up being the guy that leads the league in interceptions. And I tweeted today, don't be surprised. And it's usually a cornerback. Think about Trayvon Diggs. Think about Deron Bland. But I tweeted out today, don't be surprised if Quan Martin is that guy. Just with his versatility, with him being able to play down in the slot, with him being able to play in the high post. They had him all over the field today, and he's clearly the starter alongside Jeremy Chin at safety. And to stick with the safeties, and it pains me to say because I'm a big Derek Forrest guy. Derek Forrest might want to start looking over his shoulder. Derek Forrest might want to start looking over his shoulder. Now, I'm not saying that he's at this moment a training camp cut, but he might be a surprise training camp cut in a couple of weeks. And let me tell you why. Because as of right now, it seems as I watched practice today, and from what we've got over the course of the offseason and the last couple of days over training camp, is Derek Forrest isn't getting a lot of runs with the ones, let alone the twos. And today he did get some twos work. He didn't work with the ones at all. That was all Jeremy Chin. That was all Quan Martin. And even Percy Butler rotated with the ones as well. He was rotating with Quan Martin, and Quan Martin was rotating down the nickel with Mikey Saverstill, who was the starting nickel with the ones as well. So Mikey Saverstill has that starting nickel position locked down, flatline sinker. Like that's Mikey Saverstill. So that's something that we don't even need to worry about. They didn't even target him today because it seemed like he was in the right spot every time. Zone man, Jahan Dotson couldn't get any separation from him. It was Mikey Saverstill's that dude. But going back, when Percy Butler would rotate, they would take Mikey out, and then Quan Martin was even playing in some slot, showing off their versatility and playing in the position that we saw him play last year. So those are three safeties that I already think is above Derek Forrest. And then while he was with the twos, it seems like they have a designated role for Dom Hampton, who's fucking huge. Jeremy Chin and Dom Hampton were building fucking labs. I've never seen fucking safeties this size. Because I never got a chance to see Cam Chancellor in person, but this is what it must have been like. They're fucking mutants. And they seem to have a role for Dom Hampton as a dime type backer. I don't think that Derek Forrest has the frame to fit that type of role. And he's a draft pick under the new regime. So I think that he would get the edge as far as like roster construction or making the roster over a guy like Derek Forrest. So just to see a guy like Defoe not get as many reps today was a little concerning as somebody that's a moderate Derek Forrest fan. I'm not over here trying to make it seem like he's prime Sean Taylor, but he did have a solid 2022 season. A few more on-field notes that I want to touch on before I get you guys up out of here. Emmanuel Forbes, I touched on him earlier. It seems like they have a lot of faith in him. He was running with the ones today. Majority, I didn't even see him rotate with the twos a lot. And his weight gain is evident. I will say that. His weight gain is evident. I see exactly why they're talking about him putting on those 15 to 17 pounds because it looks like it. You can see it in his legs. No Diddy. You can see it in his arms. And it doesn't seem like he's losing any speed. I saw him today on Diami ran like a dig route. No, it's more like a comeback. And Emmanuel Forbes opened up, ran stride for stride with him. He ran until about 14 yards, broke down with him, batted the ball down, not giving up any separation. Of course, Diami got up looking for the ref, the paid ref, that making an excuse on why he didn't get separation. But it was a positive sign to see from Emmanuel Forbes. And I just need him to start stacking days. Admittedly, we're low on Emmanuel Forbes because he had a disastrous 2023 season. There's no other way to put it. But to see him, with that weight gain, it shows that he's taking it serious. It shows that he might be due for a bounce back in 2023 because in 2024 because as I've let you guys know, time in and time out, all Emmanuel Forbes' issues weren't simply technique based. A lot of them were a will issue, a will to tackle, a will to be physical issue. So I think that he'll be more willing to be nitty gritty in that run game with an extra 15 pounds. Going back to the O-lines, I did watch their individual drills. And it seems as if Sam Cosmi is the clear leader of that group. And I think that he's really in line for an all-pro season. He didn't waste a rep today. He was serious in all of his reps. And then please take it with a grain of salt because, like I said, they don't have pads on. But he was blowing up. He was blowing dudes up. I ain't even gonna name no names. But whoever he went against in the run game when they were running the ball, he was opening up holes. He was opening up holes to say the least. And to mention, as I mentioned with Austin Eckler having his juice, all the running backs look fast today. B-Rob has a lot of juice that we started to see a little bit last year, but now being 2 years removed from the gunshot wound to his knee and things of that nature, he looks like he has that 4.5 speed that he ran at the combine. Chris Rodriguez Jr. looked like he dropped about 20 pounds. He's looking fleet of foot, and I love what I saw from Marcus Wiley today. He actually broke out on a read option play. Like I told you, that's the reason why he might make this team, because he's really efficient in the read option game and skirted past the defense against the twos, and he showed a little bit of juice as well. Last couple of things that I really want to touch on is Brandon Coleman is fucking huge, bro. He's fucking huge. He fits the athletic profile of a franchise left tackle. That's the one thing we don't have to worry about is how he stacks up athletically. He came over to the sideline, and I lied to you not. It was 95 degrees before he came over there. It was about 65 once he came over there. He just blocked out the motherfucking sun. I just wanted to stand behind him the rest of practice. No Diddy, pause. Whoa, that sounded flagrant. But you know what I mean. He just blocked out the sun. And yeah, I think that he's going to have everything that it takes to be a franchise left tackle, and I see why they have a lot of confidence in him. And I honestly think that come day one, your starting five at the offensive line position is going to be Brandon Coleman at left tackle. It's going to be Nick Allegretti at your left guard. It's going to be Tyler Biadasz at your center position. It's going to be Sam Cosmi at your right guard position, and it's going to be Cornelius Lucas at your right tackle position. And that's a starting five that I could get with, at least in year one of a rebuild. And then you start to draft your Will Campbells out of LSU to start building on this soon-to-be dynasty, hopefully. As I mentioned, Jeremy Chin is fucking huge. Looks like he was built in a lab. And yes, this is probably the biggest takeaway. Outside of Quan Martin, this was probably the biggest takeaway. The linebacking corps, guys. Because I don't think you guys are going to be able to prepare yourself. The linebacking corps is a complete 180 from what you've known the Washington Commanders, football team, Redskin, linebackers to be since London Fletcher's retired. Complete 180 from the likes of fucking Perry Riley, Mason Foster, Will Compton, and those are the best of the best. Complete 180 from the likes of Jamin Davis, just the sorry Cody Barton, just the sorry ass off-ball linebacker play that we've been accustomed to for the last 10 years. You're gonna shed a tear. I promise you're going to shed a tear come September when you see that linebacker play. It's night and day. Bobby Wagner is the clear leader on the defense, and Frankie Louvu is his protege that can just get it done, that got a little bit more juice than him at this point in his career. He's relaying everything that Bobby does. Bobby's still flying around. Bobby came in on a wide open blitz today. and almost smacked Jaden in the mouth. Now, they didn't have pads, and I'm sure a savvy, wily veteran like Bobby Wagner wasn't going to do too much. But he had a beeline to Jaden Daniels, but it was beat with the perfect play call. Cliff Kingsbury called a middle screen to Jahan Dotson that beat the blitz, and essentially left him wide open in the middle of the field with a lot of space. And I love the innovation that I saw with Cliff Kingsbury's play called in today. We did see a little bit of motion, something that he didn't do a lot in Arizona. And so all in all, I'm super excited. But going back to this linebacker core, complete maniacs. Complete maniacs flying over the field. Jordan McGee is a fucking tank. He's built like a fire hydrant on steroids. And he can move well. When they were in the few snaps that they were in a 4-3 base, he was the clear starting linebacker alongside Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner. Jamin Davis, I'm sorry, Jamin, you might want to start learning Canadian, buddy. You might want to start learning Canadian because you might be a Montreal Argonaut or whatever they call that. Whatever they call them, a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. You might be a Winnipeg Blue Bomber in the next couple of weeks. And I love Jamin Davis. Y'all know this pains me to say because I really thought that Jamin Davis had potential. But it seems like he got no off-ball linebacker reps today. It seems like they're trying to convert him to a defensive end, and he wasn't beating the third string today. He wasn't beating Trent Scott today. So if he's not going to be a special team demon, as of right now on July 28, 2024, I project that Jamin Davis doesn't make this roster. And that's something that you really don't necessarily want to see from a guy that you used a first-round draft pick on just 3 years ago. Just 3 years ago. Outside of that, man, hopefully you learned a lot more. Hopefully I gave you guys a good, feel of what went down in Ashburn today. I'm not going to be there again, boots on the ground until Thursday, but they will be in pads, so I'm excited to see that. We're going to get some more real-life game-type scenarios and things of that nature. But in the meantime, I'm still going to be checking up, reading the tweets, making the videos off of the local beat reporters. So catch up. Make sure that you stay in tune with the channel. Stay tapped into the channel because we're pushing out daily content. So tomorrow is training camp day 5. So we're going to have a training camp recap day 5 video. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss it. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. I'll check in on you guys later. Peace.